There's a story in First Kings 8 where Solomon has finished the temple and they've placed the ark into the Holy of Holies and they're starting to dedicate the temple. And it says that the presence of God came down so thick in that area that the priests couldn't even walk. They had to get down on their face and crawl out of there. And what that means is that sometimes you can interpret that phrase to say that, okay, then like not Jesus, God's presence was only in that place. But what we believe is that God is everywhere all the time. But there are times where God's presence, and I heard it put this way this morning that I thought really liked, was that God's presence, God can turn up the saturation of his presence. And so what that means is that there's sometimes, like in this instance in the temple, where God really turned up his presence of saturation, where you could really sense him, you could really feel that he was there. And then there's other places where it's like, is God even here? And then in those places, the saturation is way down. And there's not a whole like biblical theology or verses to back all this up. It's just, you get this one little story and then you have anecdotal evidence from my own life of experiencing God's presence. There's times where like, okay, yeah, I don't really feel God here, but I know he's here because I know God is everywhere. And there's other places where like, there is absolutely no doubt that God is here. And so what we want to do is when we get into our personal private prayer times, or we go to church, or we get into like a worship experience, like at a conference or a retreat or something, what we're looking for is when we invite God into that place, what we're asking God is for him to turn up the saturation, to make his presence known in that area so that we can feel his love and feel his comfort and the peace that we can only find when we're in his presence.